Reggie here, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. In this video, we are going to take a look at some Bronze Age key comics that are much more affordable now than they have been in the past that you may want to consider adding to your collection if they fit with the goals that you actually have for your collection. So you definitely want to take some time to think about the things that I am saying, do your own research, and make a decision for yourself. The very first book that we are going to look at is right here on screen. It is Moon Knight issue number 1, published in November of 1980. And this book is the first self-titled ongoing series featuring Moon Knight. There is also the origin of Moon Knight, along with some first appearances in this book as well. This book was incredibly popular over the last couple of years, but values, as you will see, have come down dramatically. And as a result, now could be a good time to pick this book up. Everything that we're going to be looking at today comes from the Go Collect website, which is a site that I like to use for graded book prices. And we are specifically going to be looking at CGC books in this video. There are all 10,689 universal blue label copies of this book. But when you drill down, you see that only 1,100 of them are blue label 9.8. And that is actually where I recommend you look at for this book. Go for the 9.8. And according to this data, it has an FMV of $375. But as you'll see, this book is actually going for a lot less than that right now. So we're going to toggle that off. And if you look here on the left-hand side, you can see graphically what has happened with this book. What is that? Back in 2021, this book was going for $1,100. It then fell to around $953. It had, where is it right there? 700 in September of 2022, had a little bit of a blip here in March of this year for $470. And right now, the average price for this book, 30-day average, is $268. That is down from the 90-day at $283 and is down from the 1-year average of $394. The value of this book has been declining, which again might be a good time to actually pick it up when it's headed down. Now, the question is, how low will it go? Nobody knows that. But if you are a Moon Knight fan, if you were priced out of this book before, if you want to get in on this book to see how it's going to perform into the future, buying at this price might not be bad. And you can see here on the individual sales, the most recent sale, $216 for this comic. That is a smoking deal. $216 on 8/27 is a smoking deal for this book. Universal 9.8 white pages on the eBay machine. The sale before that, $228. Again, if you're a Moon Knight fan, now could be the time to get in on this book. Now, there is another really awesome Moon Knight book that is not the focus of this video, but I will touch on it a little bit later in this video. There are all kinds of rumors that Moon Knight is potentially going to appear someplace else in the MCU whenever Hollywood gets itself back on track. We don't know when that's going to be, but again, now could be a good time to get it. I think there are some good story lines that are going on right now in current comics with Moon Knight. I guess they're about to kill him off or something like that. Again, a really awesome book from November of 1980 that you guys may want to check out. All right, so let me go ahead and pull up the next book that we are going to look at. And this one is actually a DC book. This one is a DC book. This is issue number 47 of DC Comics Presents. And this one is the first appearance of HeMan and Skeletor in comics. This was a huge part of my childhood. That being HeMan and Skeletor, huge part of my childhood. A really awesome book from July 1982. We don't know what is going to happen with the future of HeMan on the small screen or on the big screen, potentially because of what happened with Barbie. Maybe HeMan will find a home after, going through several different movie houses. Maybe HeMan will find a home somewhere this is a really awesome book. With this book, I don't recommend the 9.8. I don't recommend the 9.8 specifically because the 9.8 is relatively expensive. There is no doubt about that. The FMV for this book is around $1,200. The 30-day average for this book is $1,065, which in this environment could be considered a lot of money. For this one, you might want to look at the 9.6. It is much more affordable. There are more of those on the census. The census count for the 9.6 is 473 copies, but it has an FMV of around $400. And as you'll see here momentarily, I think the most recent sales have actually been below that as well. On the left-hand side of the screen, you can see how the values have fallen down. This 9.6 going back in time to 2021 was going for $1,400. It fell off to around $900, had a little bit of a blip in October of 2022 for $567, a little bit of blip earlier this year. Well, not that long ago, a month or so ago, in July of around $475. But right now, the 30-day average for this really awesome copy of this comic is $336, which is down from the 90-day at $394, which is down from the 1-year average at $440. So not a bad time. The most recent sale for this book earlier this month, $336. Not a bad time to jump on board with this comic. I actually had a 9.6 copy of this myself that I sold. I think it was several months ago, maybe even close to a year ago now. I kind of sort of wish that I had held on to this book, to be honest with you. It's an awesome comic, no doubt about it. DC Comics presents issue number 47, first appearance of He-Man and Skeletor in comics. The last Bronze Age comic that we are going to look at in this video, that is the focus of the video, I should say, is this really awesome comic right here. This is She-Hulk issue number 1, technically Savage She-Hulk number 1. This book's value has fallen as well. Maybe it's because of the performance of the Disney Plus show that was not well received by fans. Maybe it's just a sign of the economy. Maybe it's a combination of things. But this book, regardless of the politics and appreciation or lack thereof for the show, this book is a key comic. It is the origin of She-Hulk and also the first appearance of this character. It is also from 1980, specifically January 31st of 1980 for this book. Like the Moon Knight book, I recommend the 9.8. There are presently almost 14,000, technically 13,805 universal blue label copies of this comic on the CGC census. 2,611 of them are actually 9.8. And again, just like with the previous, if you look here on the chart, you can see the value of this book has fallen dramatically over time. It is currently, the 30-day average is $428. $428, still a little expensive, but not terrible, not terrible. This book in March of 2022 was going for a crazy amount of money, $1,400. That is a lot. That is a lot, no doubt about it. And the high water mark before that, 1481, the book has had a huge fall off. It has had a huge fall off. And again, a lot of people will say, well, maybe it'll go lower. We don't know what the future holds, but if you're a She-Hulk fan, if you've been priced out of this book, if this is a book that you want to add to your collection, if you're trying to complete a run, this is not a bad time to get in on this book because, again, the 30-day average for this book, $428, but the most recent sale was only $389. Only $389 on eBay, Universal 9.8 white pages. There are deals out there, and potentially, you might be able to catch this book at the right time where its value is going to continue ticking down. And maybe by the time you see this video, maybe there will be some other books out there that are priced based upon this most recent sale of $389 versus the 30-day average of $428. Savage She-Hulk #1 is a fantastic book. I have a 9.6 in the copy in the collection. I sent my copies in raw, and the highest that I could get was a 9.6. Wish it were a 9.8, but it is what it is. So there you go. Wanted to make sure that I covered off on a couple of really cool Bronze Age books. But as I promised at the start of this video, there is one additional book that I will share with you guys that was also slightly on the radar. It was on the radar because of the Moon Knight book. This is Werewolf by Night issue number 32, the first appearance and the origin of Moon Knight. This is a cool book. It is also an expensive book. Doesn't really matter the grade that you're looking at. This is an expensive book, and Moon Knight #1 is a great alternative if you don't want to pay 2 arms and a leg to add a really awesome comic. This one from 1975. But I wanted to flag this book because as you go down the list, right, there are only a little over 5,000 copies of this book on the census for CGC. As you go down the list, generally speaking, the values of this book at the 30-day are lower than they were a year ago. So the values of even this major key comic of a really awesome character are tumbling down. And so if you have some extra cash, you can always look at a more expensive option. But I didn't feel like, you know, showing a 9.4 at $4,200 was really the right mood or the right temperature for the environment. But again, as you go down the list here, you can see the 6.0 a year ago, $929. 30-day, $785. The 5.5, $9.5. The 30-day, $615. Again, I think there's one where the 30-day is actually higher, but generally speaking, as you go down the list, the challenge with this book, of course, is one, that it is more expensive, but then the second part is that there are not a ton of copies out there. And when you start to look at some of the census counts in these lower grades, 2.0, there's only 52 of them. The 1.8, there's only 23 of them. The 1.0, there's only 8, and the value of that, or the 30-day average, is 380. So this could be a tough book for several different reasons, but I at least wanted to make mention of it because we were talking about Moon Knight. With that said, we're going to wrap up this video. I want to thank you all for taking the time to watch. I hope that you enjoyed this video of looking at some Bronze Age key comics that you may want to consider adding to your collection if it makes sense. If you want to reach out to me, feel free to do so on Instagram at Regie Collects. Take care.
This thing on? Mic check. I just want to make sure y'all can hear me clearly. Yo, should you practice art, or should art be your practice? I had a question, so I asked it. Not to anyone specifically, but to my inner God, you know? The one that's gonna be a master, the one that's more than a rapper, the one that's an educator, the one that seeks enlightenment. He travels with concepts, he's got the mindset expansive. He understands that his time combined with travel and concepts makes his mind convex. Sort of like when you look at a brain scan, straight off meditation, we was concaving until we had that eternal dialogue that created our dialect. Now we in distinct rooms with pure souls having them conversations. Synergy and combinations. You fly and we waiting. Indian style in the gold.